Okay.
Take a seat.
So communications and announcements.
Yes, sir, we have an announcement that gentleman's gonna.
Jerry?
Okay. I'm Jerry Alvarado. I'm with Border Region Behavioral Health Center. To the Veteran Peer Network, Medical Veteran Peer Network. And I cover Webb County, Zapata County, Hart County, and Stark County. I'm the Veterans Peer Coordinator for Border Region. Basically, what I try to do is advocate for the veterans and try to get them help. Sometimes they can't navigate through the VA system, or so I try to help them out, and sometimes I'll go with them and sit there with at the VA or Texas War Boards.
So basically what we're doing is see he can join as part of the committee, his organization, correct?
Yeah, I invited him to see if it's possible for him to join our
Our committee.
veterans committee.
Okay, the way it works for that, it needs to go through city council and the mayor, and it gets voted on. We just did it with their group, Black Widows. So, Ms. Perez, maybe you could assist us, or Mr. Torres, in putting it on a future agenda.
Yes. It's a veteran group, or it's a,
It's through Border Region, through the Texas Veterans Commission. We're 36 coordinators for the whole state of Texas, and we have 5 combat field positions for the whole state. Basically, we're out of Texas Veterans Commission, and I've been doing this for 11 years. And we have a board meeting the last Saturday of each month.
the only issue I see with this is that it's not a group of veterans. It's a group that assists veterans, so
Right.
we don't have any of the other groups as part of the committee. I think the committee should be, when it comes to voting, it should be the veteran groups. To me, that's what I think.
And the way it works with Mr. Garza, he's with the Webb County, and he is part of them, but he's not a voting member. Maybe he could join in that capacity,
Yeah,
as advisory capacity. That's how Mr. Garza is. Because you're not really a veteran organization, are you? Like a group, like the Korean War veterans, of Catholic War veterans. So maybe we could put them in as that capacity.
The only issue, if I may, Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
with that is going to be that they're gonna have all these entities that provide services to veterans wanting to serve in an advisory capacity, right?
Mhm.
So it's going to either affect the quorum requirements, or it's going to avoid us from being able to meet, because typically we have that interest, that initial interest, as you recall, Mr. Vela. And then if they don't make the meetings for whatever reason, then that affects the quorum requirement for the meetings. So what I suggest, along the same lines as Councilmember Perez, would be that if you'd like to attend all the meetings, right, and communicate to the group during communications of anything, you said the workforce, right, sir? I mean, I'm sorry. with
Border
MHMR?
region.
With MHMR? Yeah, that maybe each meeting, he can give an update of what MHMR is providing for veterans as a service.
Well, that's an issue, it's up to the city council, but we would like the city council to think about it and discuss it, because they do provide a lot of good services for the veterans. So Varao is a veteran himself. Many of the people that work for you are veterans, I'm sure, so.
Well,
It will be something.
the thing is that he has a meeting on the last Saturday of every month. And on that meeting, he always has some important topic having to do with veterans, ya sea PTSD or,
Veterans health, and
veterans health.
that's what this committee is all about, is trying to improve the quality of life of veterans.
Right.
So it's something for the city council to consider, and we'll submit it to them and see what we can do.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And do some more backward down if you need to. And we can, next week, we can address it. But we appreciate you being here. We appreciate the work that you do. Okay, any other communications?
Any announcements? No, sir.
Okay, just I want to announce that today is the United States Army 247th birthday, so happy birthday.
Oh.
United States Army. And I was gonna say a few more words on that, but it's taking a little more time. So we're gonna move
Mr.
on.
Garcia.
Any other announcements that we have? The first item on the agenda. We have presentation with possible action by Dr. Michael A. Hoffman on 3M earplug lawsuit involving veterans serving from 2003 to 2015 and any other matters into the text too. I believe I have the dates correct, but you can correct me if I'm wrong.
That is correct.
You have the floor, sir.
Thank you.
Just identify yourself first, please, for the record. While we're waiting on that, Marshall, we can just make note that Mr. Garza, David Garza is here and Council Member Perez is also present.
And Mr. Quijano also.
Mr. Quijano is here also. Okay.
Gabriel cannot log in. Gabriel Lopez.
I,
Well, and that, we need to go with. the-
I don't know how that works.
I thought we were gonna have an IT guy here, but it's not. Like I said, this is something that we're gonna have to deal with. Dr. Hoffman, you have. the floor.
maybe they can call in
Yeah, that could
to
be.
at least get the audio.
Y'all can sit on this side if you are audience member.
I'm Michael Hoffman. I'm a physician and an attorney. I've been in Laredo since 1999, and I support veterans in many ways. Almost half of you are my patients. I recently went to law school and finished law school at the University of Texas in Austin. And as I continue my medical practice, I look at ways to help our community from the perspective of not only as a physician, but also as an attorney. And one of the main things that I see, one of the needs that I see that needs to be filled is actually helping veterans. And there are several specific ways that we can do that. My talk is titled Helping Injured Veterans Receive Compensation. And I want to more specifically today drill down on the 3M earplug lawsuit. Right now, I believe I'm the only one in Laredo who's representing veterans. I have several dozen veterans that I'm representing, but I want to get the word out, and I am asking humbly for all of you to help me get the word out for Laredoans, because I think it's a great opportunity for us to help young Laredo veterans who have suffered either tinnitus or hearing loss of any degree to get compensation. I'll tell you a little more about myself. I'll talk about the few cases that I'm taking on, and then I'll end with some takeaway points. In terms of speaking about myself, I'll start with who I am. I've been here since 1999. I do a lot of volunteer work, and I've supported veterans. I work closely with Gigi Ramos at Volunteer Serving the Need. I've never turned away a veteran in my office, and I see probably a quarter of my office on any given day are veterans. The type of injury and the type of legal claim that I want to talk to you about is called a mass tort, and that's where it's a private action. We're not talking about suing the government, we're not talking about suing the military, we're not talking about suing the VA, but rather company, in this case 3M, which is a multi-billion-dollar company that sold the military earplugs that didn't work. They were defective, and as such, unfortunately, many of our young veterans have hearing loss, and we can help them. There are other matters that I represent veterans in the form of mass torts, aside from the 3M earplug litigation, which covers anyone who's served between 2003 and 2015. There's also the Iraq War Fund litigation where we're actually, a group of us are going after the big banks that helped fund Iran and ended up, yeah.
So there's a few guys that are trying to log in, but they're just seeing this.
Sorry, we're having
No.
virtual.
Of course.
You can continue.
So, thank you. So for injured Iraq war veterans in particular that served between 2003 and 2011, there's a potential opportunity to receive compensation as well. And finally, the most recent development in veteran cases that I'm taking on are the Camp Lejeune water litigation, and that would be for obviously the Marines who were at Camp Lejeune at any time to 1987, specifically from 1955 to 1987. If you were there for more than 30 days, family members as well. Unfortunately, the water there was toxic, and right now Congress is in the process of enacting a law that allows those injured veterans who are now getting cancer and other terrible maladies to receive compensation. Ronald Reagan said, "No arsenal or no weapon in the arsenals of the world is so formidable as the will and moral courage of free men and women." This makes me think about the US Constitution and what I studied for years and what you all fought to preserve. Right now, we're not fighting with guns, we're fighting in the courts to protect our veterans and to make sure that they get everything that they deserve. This is my contact information. Again, my name is Michael Hockman. This is my law office number, and I'd be happy to help any of you at any time with anything. Please. At the end of the day, we want justice for our injured veterans. We want accountability. We want to make sure that companies and the parties that hurt our veterans are held accountable. And of course, we want to put money in the pockets of our veterans to help them build a better life. When we talk about the health and well-being of our veterans, there are many things we can do, and one of the things we can do is to help them financially and compensate them for their losses. So the 3M earplug claims. 3M is a company that's a multi-billion-dollar company. And they were more specifically a subsidiary of 3M, sold the military earplugs that didn't work. They sold it to the Air Force, they sold it to the Army, they sold it to the Marines, they sold it to the Navy. And they sold they sold millions of these. They sold them for pennies, and the military paid $7 or $8 per pair. So the reason they sold them obviously is to make a profit. Unfortunately, the company took profit before people, and they didn't. And it's time for us to help hold them accountable. You can see how small they are in the pictures. This is a close-up. They are held in a little pouch, which is small. And they're so small that they're too small for a normal person's ear canal. They don't make a good tight fit, which is one of the design flaws. So you get an airtight seal, and even if you're wearing them, you would suffer hearing loss and damage. When I was looking at how I could help, I was very surprised. I was very surprised when I saw that to join this action, there are only 2 criteria. It's not a long list. It's real simple, and it's exactly what the screen gave. Anyone who served between 2003 and 2015. If you served from 1989 to 2003, you served in 2003 and you're eligible for this. If you, from 2015 on, you're eligible for this. If you served any time in between, you're eligible for this. The only other criteria is that you have any degree of hearing loss, or that you have tinnitus, which is just ringing of the ears. Ringing of the ears is not normal, but many veterans have this precursor. Sometimes we see it at the same time that we see hearing loss. Some veterans have hearing loss, some have tinnitus, some have both. If you have one in 1 year, you're eligible. You would think that you'd have to be next to a piece of heavy artillery to get hearing loss. But there are thousands of ways to lose your hearing. You can be a pilot, you can be a mechanic, you can be just on a ship that makes loud noises, you can be in the reserve. The reserve, you don't have to have seen combat to be eligible. You have to have been in the service, including the reserve. And actually, this even extends to military contractors and subcontractors that were issued the 3M earphones. If I haven't gotten your attention yet, $300 million has already been awarded by juries. Cases.
¿Puede llevar un audio de Granger, Mr. Hammer?
There have been, when one of these actions, legal actions ensues, there are what we call bellwether cases, trial cases, sample balloon cases, where we want to show 3M, the defendants, what we're talking about. There were 16 cases. 10 of them were in favor of the veterans, 6 of them in favor of the 3M company. Sooner or later, 3M, and I would, while no one knows, it could be next month, it could be next year, likely in the next year, 3M will settle. So there is a time constraint on this. Once 3M settles, there will be a small grace period for new claims, and then no more claims can be put forward. One would think that everyone with hearing loss and tinnitus would sign up for this if they were eligible, because at the end of the day, there's not that much that an injured veteran needs to do. But there are many reasons why, at least what I've seen so far, there are multiple reasons why veterans might not sign up, what I call roadblocks. I've met many veterans who are private and don't want to have interference in their life. They want to be left alone. I've met veterans who say, oh, lawsuit, that's sketchy and that's a little hokey. I don't want to be involved in a lawsuit. And there are veterans who say, I don't want to mess with my disability rate. There are veterans that procrastinate, just like everyone else. There are veterans who fear that don't want to put themselves out there and then
Thank
there
you.
will be no.
Las que dicen cancel, esas son cosas que se quedaron ahí. Son dos, tres.
Salazar,
Se cancel.
Salazar.
Pues yo don't even know why they included mi cada por la mera hora cancel. I wanted to
Can
say-
we mute? Trey,
Put it in the trash can.
get the mouse.
Those of you online, can you please mute your microphones?
Go ahead, Doc.
Finally, and most importantly, there are those veterans that are unaware of the opportunity to receive compensation for their injuries. And I wanted to spend a moment or two on each of these, just to explain my perspective on each of these 6 potential roadblocks. As it comes to when it comes to the desire for privacy, the intake process can be as private as you want it to be. It can be almost anonymous. It can be online. It can be over the phone. While you don't have to come into my office, I have a local office where we can do this. It takes about 10 minutes. It's a questionnaire, a few-page questionnaire. Of course, there are medical and legal privacy regulations, so anything that we talk about is privileged and would never be shared with anyone. So from that perspective, privacy is there. There's no government reporting, and you can get updates on a monthly or weekly basis by email or by text. And there are no court appearances. The bellwether cases that I mentioned before, those have been decided already and those are finished. It's a sign up and then a wait. With respect to the unease at it being a lawsuit, it's a private lawsuit against a private company that harmed our men and women. And one of my closing points to you is going to be that we should remain silent on this, and we should each try and support each other and help our young veterans who have been harmed. We're not suing the government, as I mentioned before, nor the military. And it's the only way to hold the 3M company accountable. There's no fighting with guns here. This is simply fighting with dollars to a company that listens to that argument. With respect to disability ratings, and it's not a mistake that I mentioned this twice up there because it's worth saying twice. This does not adversely affect disability ratings or payments in any way. This has nothing to do with disability ratings. This has nothing to do with disability payments. If anything, should the young veteran decide that they are interested in getting medical help for their hearing loss, we can provide that, and we can help them get to the right providers, which may even increase their disability rating. But affecting it badly, it just doesn't happen. Finally, procrastination. I procrastinate, we all procrastinate, but if we let this go, if we say, oh, great presentation, I'll think about it, and we don't do anything, the time is going to come. And as I mentioned before, at some point, it's going to be too late. No one knows what that point is. It may be next month, it may be next week, it may be next year. But right now, all of the sample trial cases, the bellwether cases are over, and 3M and their attorneys are huddling right now, and they're waiting to decide, should we settle now, or as we see more cases, should we wait and try and delay any payment? As I mentioned before, once settlement is reached, yes, sir.
This program you have applies to veterans that serve from what year to what year?
2000.
One must have served at any time between 2003 and 2015. So that's going to be primarily the Iraq and Afghanistan veterans with hearing loss. And beyond hearing loss, it's tinnitus also, ringing in the ears. Many of us know that ringing in the ears can keep us up at night and can not be good for our mental health. Our MHMR representative here, I'm sure, sees that all the time.
Sir, but you also mentioned that private contractors that were there
Correct.
also qualified, but only they had the 3M, right?
Correct.
Right.
Correct. They would have to have been, that was what was issued between 2003 and 2015. There's also the fear of no compensation. I can remember a veteran telling me, you know, I was hesitant to come in because it would be a slap in the face if at the end of the day, you wrote me a check for $100 and I lost my hearing. And what I told him was that I don't know what the settlement is going to be, but I do know what the settlement should be, and I know what the settlement can be. And I know that if the first 10 cases made millions of dollars, the jury is awarded millions of dollars. The very lowest payment was $1.1 million. Our veterans here in Laredo are not going to get $100, and they're not going to get $1,000. They're not going to get $1 million either, to be fair. That's not the size of the settlement. But it's going to be somewhere in between, whether it's going to pay for a down payment for a used car or a down payment for a house. It remains to be seen, or a whole car or a whole house. It remains to be seen, but it's not going to be, I do not believe that it is going to be in any way, shape, or form an insulting offer. I think at the end of the day, the question right now is, are the veterans willing to help the younger veterans and encourage the younger veterans to sign up so that they can help change their life in some way. And that brings me to the last point, which is awareness. I'm the only one that I know of in Laredo that is representing veterans for this lawsuit. And what most people tell me is that, yeah, I've heard about this, and I may have seen a commercial on late night TV, and I may have, maybe some advertisement came up in my Facebook page or Instagram. But that's not what this is about. I think that we can, in Laredo, no one's done this before, and I think that we can really make a difference. I believe with your help, whether you're a young veteran or an older veteran, we can help the younger veterans to make their lives better. And that's really the takeaway point, is that we should be silent. Again, here's my contact information. I'll leave you with something, a quote that I find inspiring. I swore never to be silent whenever and wherever human beings endure suffering. We must always take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. So I hope that if you get anything out of the time that I've been privileged to spend here, you help your fellow veterans to help themselves. And it's a different type of fighting, but that's what I'm here for. It's scary for me, it's scary for them, it's scary for you, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it. That's what I got today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. A couple of questions. We appreciate you being here, but those veterans that do decide to join this lawsuit, there is no out-of-pocket cost to them.
There is no out-of-pocket cost at all. And should they decide that they don't want to work with me for some reason, help them find another person that's working on this. I don't think there's anyone in Laredo, but I would rather have, I want to help Laredo veterans and South Texas veterans, you know. I've been here long enough to know that it's the Laredoans that sometimes get put on the front line and suffer more than others. And I've seen too many patients in my office who, whether it's PTSD or something else, that are not as taken care of as we should take care of them. Whether it's in my office or when I work with Gigi or when I do other work around town, it's time for us to help our young veterans so that they don't suffer.
Yes, I've heard of other, in the past, other veterans hiring attorneys to represent them in, cases of such. And there is a percentage, and of course, attorneys deserve a percentage. What would be the percentage that a veteran would have to commit to these attorneys?
The attorney percentage is 40%, and that's standard across the country for this type of lawsuit.
Okay, that's normal, the normal percentage.
It is,
Yeah.
it is. There are some states that regulate that. In Texas, 40%.
Yeah.
Is quite standard.
It's pretty standard.
And there is a looming deadline, possible deadline when this is gonna end. And there has been a tremendous amount of money already awarded to veterans. Basically, the young warriors that we talk about a lot. I mean, you guys, I'm sure you were there. In our case, we didn't even have any type of earplug, so I think it's good that we made this presentation. But I'd like to ask, go back to the camp in June
Yes,
that you discussed. Marshall, you mentioned that you served in camp, or you were in camp in June. When were you there?
Yes, sir, but I don't qualify the dates, the years. There was a window that
When were you in camp in June?
I left 93.
It was the 87, I think it was.
Yes, it was a little bit before that.
So that is an issue that's been going on for a very long time, and it's getting close to reaching that it might happen that those veterans that served in Camp Lejeune might be able to get some kind of compensation.
That's correct.
Yeah, and I would encourage any veteran that qualifies for that to, to apply for it.
For the sake of, some people came in late, what are the dates that, you qualify, you were serving there?
For which one?
In Camp Lejeune. Camp
to
Lejeune.
Camp
87.
Lejeune would be 1955 through 1987.
Any other questions?
I'd like to add to your statement, you served in Camp Lejeune. I didn't serve in those times, only as a private contractor with HRSD. And I qualified simply because I was always shooting next to other snipers that were shooting 50 cals. And I was an issue with the 3M. It was a private contracting company, and I still got my tinnitus thing. So I think there's still hope, providing that you have the background. I think I would encourage you to apply still. And I did that first time, wasn't expecting to get it, and I got it. I got my 10%. So I would suggest you still apply.
Yes, sir.
Anything else?
One of the things about, on that same note, tinnitus, ringing of the ears, if you are experiencing that, there's no objective way there's no test for it. So I believe that there's a standard 5 or 10% that one can get. Of course, it's separate and different that, applying for that disability is separate and different than what I'm talking about, but certainly they're similar in that, again, if you have that, then you would qualify.
Hey, Doc,
Yes, please.
can you elaborate? I had never heard of the Iraq War Fund litigation.
Mhm.
What is that? Like, I kind of looking it up right now, but that's something I've never heard about. I mean, I do see here it's under the Foreign Act 28 USC 165. But can you just elaborate on that?
Absolutely.
Like, what is that?
That also is a private action where there were banks, in particular Deutsche Bank, and I believe there was another multinational bank that was colluding and cooperating with Iran. And we are going after that bank to pay reparations to our injured Iraqi vets.
Okay, and that's done through the US courts or international courts? The class action lawsuit?
I believe it's US courts, but I need to get back to you on that. If you are interested, I'd be happy to get you more information on the details there.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You mentioned a deadline. Do you have the date?
No one has a date, which is why it's so important to take action now. We're late in the game. It's in 2 years, for sure, it's gonna be too late. In 1 year, it might be too late. In 6 months, it may or may not be too late. So it's up, the deadline is going to be when 3M settles. And no one has a good understanding of when they will settle. Now, one of the things which I'll also mention is that I'm partnering with attorneys who are on the leadership committee of the whole action. So we have a seat at the negotiating table as it relates to the settlement. But as of right now, 3M attorneys are huddling it. They may huddle for months. There are a few 100,000 veterans that have signed up for this. And I think Laredo is not well represented at this point, and I would like to see Laredo well represented so that our veterans get compensation. I would rather have thousand Laredo veterans than 5,000 veterans from elsewhere, because this is our community.
Well, that's why it's important that all those organizations go back to our respective organizations and pass the word out, because this is something that is there. I mean, all you gotta do is prove that you were there at that time and that you had a hearing problem. Basically, that's the criteria to be able to join this lawsuit.
It's very, very
So
simple.
if you serve from 203 to 215 and you have a hearing problem, you're a candidate to qualify, or you do qualify to join the lawsuit. And you pass this word out, and that's what this presentation is all about, to be able to bring this particular item to the forefront and see how many of us, of you, because we don't come anymore. Yes, I don't pay the can take advantage of this opportunity. Doctor, again, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you
for
very
being
much.
here, and thank you for all the service you do for the veterans, and for all the medical professionals that accept the vouchers from the VA. Dr. Hoffman is one of them, and they're on the phone, but we appreciate everybody in the medical community that accepts medical or VA vouchers. Thank you, sir.
It's the least we can do to the people who have served for our country.
Thank you, appreciate it. Next item on the agenda, we have possible action regarding an update on the Soldiers Cross Monument, any matters incident there too.
For that, Ms. Alvarez wanted an update, yes, and I was hoping you had something, Mr. Garza.
Yeah, so it's moving forward, waiting on, waiting on two people, well, one callback, and it's been approved to be sent up. It's just gonna take time. It'll be after everything is processed and paid, it'll be probably 6 months for delivery after that to about 9 months, more or less.
Okay,
So we're hoping to get it maybe by best case scenario, and I don't know who I was talking to about this before Veterans Day, but I definitely wouldn't count on that, but that would be trying to meet that deadline.
But it might be here with, I don't know what the city council action was with the Wreath Across America, that you all joined that project. I know there was a presentation to us and to the city council about,
Yes.
and that's gonna be in December sometime, if it happens, so that's possibly it's close. But anyway, thank you, Mr. Garza, appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
There is no action required on this item,
No.
so the next item on the agenda, we have discussion and possible action on changing the meeting time, the start time from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and any other matters incident there too. I don't know where this came from, but obviously we need to discuss it and put it to a vote.
where this came from, Chairman, was that some people work, members of, and they were taking their lunch hour from 10 to 11 to make the meeting.
Sure.
So, and from now on, they're gonna bring food, so maybe that also aligns with the lunch hour, from 12 to 1. So that's the reason it's here. I mean, if the members don't want it, we could leave it like it is, or we could go from 12 to 1.
And we understand the reason, and we all have different schedules and things like that, but if it's moved to 12, there will be lunch served.
That's what I've been told.
That's what you
Right, Mr.
understand?
Well, they're bringing out, they're starting to bring breakfast. They got tacos.
Yeah, but if we move to 12, it's gonna be an actual,
We could try to make it a lunch. I mean, I don't know,
Well,
Mr. Pettis, what do you think? Should-
just so everybody will know what they're voting for.
Will there be enough time from 12 to 1?
Well, it should be only an hour, the meeting, I mean, it shouldn't take more than that. It's always usually
Yeah.
3 to 5 agenda items. So
We,
it shouldn't be that long. I mean, we've gotten good at it now to making them shorter and shorter and shorter. At the beginning, yes, they were long. I agree with everybody who says that. But I think lately they've been shorter and shorter. We've been getting better at it.
when we had the item on the agenda last month, I think it was about Marshall did a breakdown of the meetings, and I think that except for one meeting, they.
Like an hour 15.
minutes. I think
Yeah,
it was.
I don't know.
So So, yeah, I mean, we might go a little bit more, and that's why we decided, we voted on not to put an exact time limit, because we are making an effort to make it as fast as possible. However, like we said before, our mission is to provide, or try to provide a better quality of life for our veterans. And we're not gonna put a time constraint on something that will help veterans. And that's the way I see our mission. I think everybody sees it the same way. We understand that everybody has different schedules, and if you're here, and then, of course, you can be excused to go somewhere else, a meeting or anything like that. I'm one of those that I'm on a time schedule today. I have a hearing with a law judge, veteran law judge, and, but our mission here is to provide the best quality of life for our veterans. So it's up to the vote to the veterans, whether they want to change it to 12 noon and have a free lunch. Or, well, it's not set in stone yet, the free lunch, but,
Yeah, it's gonna be, I don't know who would be in charge of getting the lunch. I think I'm not sure how that would work, but, I mean, it could be, I think the veterans were worried that they had to take their lunch too early, but maybe we could start at 11 or.
well, the item is up on the agenda, and like always, we're here to serve the veterans, and the committee is here to do
Do we
that.
have enough
And
for
whatever the
quorum?
wish of the committee, that's.
Yes, we
good enough
have.
for me.
Who brought it to the agenda so we can have that person say some words on
Who
it?
put the item on the agenda?
I put it on through the comments I was getting through people
Several
that,
people or several members?
see, it
or
was a
just
few members
one?
that there were, they had a lunch hour and then they were showing back up to work a little late. So that's why.
And
It was-
one of the things that we all volunteered from our each individual service organization to join this committee. And there's sacrifices that we gotta make. I also had calls that some people like the 10 a.m., but like, again, you, the committee members, you make this thing happen.
So I'll
You
make a
decide.
motion,
Sure.
to try it for 1 month, next month's meeting, instead of 12, 11:30.
We have a motion on the floor to have a meeting on a trial basis for next meeting at 11:30.
I'll second.
There's a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, say nay. Next meeting will be.
Wait,
at
somebody had a
11:30.
comment on
Is
the,
that Mr. Lopez?
was that you, Lopez?
Okay,
Okay. Do you want to say anything on this, Mr. Lopez?
I think he said yes.
good, okay.
He said yes.
He said yes.
Very good. So next meeting will be at 11:30. The location, Marshall, is it gonna still be here, or we're gonna go back to the city chamber?
Whatever you guys want. I mean, we were here because they were gonna bring food and it's hard to eat in those chairs over there. Because it's, here you have a table, so I don't know, whatever, what do you think, man?
Well, I know that at the beginning, Mr. Chairman, you had asked for something like this, so we could all be saying. But I don't know.
There was a discussion
The
on
majors.
that we would be more like a family that we really are,
Mhm.
brothers and sisters. And this is good enough for me. I mean, I don't have a problem with this at all.
It's up to.
I mean, that seems to be enough room. If we need to, we can have more chairs. I think that the most people we had is about 25 people at one time. Seems to be all right here.
So we'll leave it here for now.
Okay, all right.
What do you think?
Well, I don't know, it just feels a little, maybe it's just me, man, it just feels a little.
See, like
Crowded.
they're sitting in the
Little bit.
back. I don't know, whatever you,
I think it feels a little crowded.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
but I think at the chamber, there's a room where we can,
Yes,
they
the
can go
back.
eat over there, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
the
no,
back.
And,
It might be a little bit bigger too.
Well, they
Yeah.
can, we do a council, we'll put the food back there and then people can just go back
yeah,
there.
absolutely. They
if
can
they
come
want.
in and come and go.
okay,
All right.
so then we go
We'll
back.
make it city chat.
And
City
just
council
put the
chamber.
food in the back. Mhm.
Okay, so next item on the agenda, we have discussion and possible action regarding an update on the Iraq Afghanistan monument on Jarvis Plaza and it matters incident there too.
Okay, on the city's part, the city was gonna look for a location. We drove by yesterday and we walked the area. There is a location right next to the Gold Star Mother's Monument on the left-hand side of that. There was just a question, Mr. Lopez, on the funding part.
Are you there, Mr. Lopez?
Yes, I'm here. I believe that on the last meeting that we had agreed, the committee had agreed to ask the city to fund this project. That's the last that we discussed, and it was approved to ask the city. I believe the amount was $10,000. And that's as far as we got. It was agreed that the city will pay, we'll ask the city if they could pay for it first. And I guess we will need somebody to bring that up to city council.
Okay, Mr. Lopez, I went back to see that meeting and it was discussed, but after a few people went up to the podium and they said that that burden should not be put on the city, that it should be either people donating or fundraisers. So then the city was gonna provide the location, but the funding was, as I think you spoke about it, Mr. Quijano, also at
Yes.
that meeting.
Yes, I did, sir.
And I remember that it was gonna be that way, not to put a burden on
It's not put a burden on the
taxpayers.
taxpayers. And if veterans could come together and decide one way or the other and have it done, create it. That's just, my opinion, that's what I think. So I think that the city should be for it.
Go ahead, Mr. Lopez.
Conversation, and after the Mr. Quijano spoke, I did go back to the podium, and I specifically said these words that it is a burden to the city, that to remember us, that the city's money is not the city's money, it's the taxpayers' money. We were just only asking them to distribute that money wisely. That was the last thing that I spoke at the podium. And that was the end of that conversation, and everybody agreed to it. Now, we can have a vote again, or how are you gonna do it, but we need to move forward with this.
So
Can I-
what was the city's final decision that we're not gonna be contributing?
Well, we never brought it up to council.
Never brought it up?
It never did go to council because it
So I understand then go to council. Normally, I would agree with, we shouldn't be asking and the city to do this and that and that. However, I was recently reflecting on the cemetery because I was asked a very tough question by our congressman not too long ago. And it was like, about the cemetery here and how it works and this and that. So the city actually funds the cemetery, the veteran side of the cemetery. It doesn't have to. And it's one of the cities that does it probably the best in the surrounding area. So I think the city should have a bite in this. And I personally would agree with Mr. Lopez on this, that, it's just $10,000 that I think the city, I've seen them spend money on other things that I'm like, whoa, I'm gonna spend millions of dollars on something I don't really see happening, but that's a whole nother animal.
Is it?
I do agree with Mr. Lopez, so if, I don't know there's a motion or whatever, but I think the city can at least be brought up to see if they would want to fund the $10,000, up to $10,000.
And what are we talking about? Is it like a slab of concrete?
No, it would be, I would assume, I haven't seen it, Mr. Lopez, unless you have something out there, but I would assume that it would be something, and that's a horrible color, but kind of like that, I would assume that we did
Is
for
that
gold.
the total amount for the monument?
I only said 10,000 because somebody said $10,000.
Do you have any idea?
I was the one that brought out the $10,000 based on conversations that I had with people who build these things and others in other cities that have this, that up to $10,000. And the design was provided. I don't have a copy with me because I'm in the office, but the design at the house. And I provided this design which basically was just a rectangular block with the boots and the helmet and the rifle, and then four sides, on four sides, on two sides, it would have the Operation Iraqi Freedom, on the other side, Operation Enduring Freedom. And then on the front side, it will have the logos of all the branches, and then on the back side, it will have a message from the city of Laredo. I presented that to the designs, everybody. There were actually two designs that were presented at that day. One was presented by me, and the other one was presented by Mr. Korean War veteran, Mr. Sanchez.
So that is not a hard number then. So why don't we do some research and try to get a quote? Because we really need to, I'm sure that the city council or any governmental entity will want a card number of what it would take to build this. And if that's, you need some more, then we can ask the community to chip in. And let me just say that my company will chip in $1,000 towards this monument, if that's the case.
So that monument that we have there, that we did with the Gold Star Mothers was privately funded.
It was.
Mr. Quijano, do you remember more or less, so obviously inflation and all that, it was a little bit less than 10,000.
It was way less than 10,000.
Okay.
We got a good price, sir.
Yeah, but that was a little bit different because it's 13,000 more or less for the Soldier's Cross.
But why don't we get a hard number, put it on the agenda for next meeting? And we'll vote on it, and ask the city to, again, officially, to see if they can contribute a certain amount of whatever they seem to be able to.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
So obviously, like with inflation and everything that's going on right now with the gas prices, it is affecting the city too. And usually what we would have to do is put this probably for around budget time in October. But just want to remind you all that we did budget last year. I want to say it was $100,000 for that monument that's going to come up at the cemetery. It's like a big, elaborate monument, and I don't think it's started.
They're already doing, well, you probably know a little bit more, but I just talked to John. Yeah.
Okay, so that
already being prepared and
yeah,
sketched out and everything.
we put,
it's nice.
yeah, we put money for that. It was like 100,000 last budget. I remember we specifically, did that, and then we also put a monument for like the babies that we've lost and things like that. So we are gonna have two very nice monuments coming up at the cemetery. So if we're talking about another monument, my suggestion would be put it through the budget process, and then it would come in.
And could it go through, okay, so I'm not too sure how it works in the city, but it would have to be put in through like one of the departments, whether it be John's department or Fila or
Yeah.
Parks and Rec, Coach Gomez.
I think John Orfila could probably put it, because he's the one that put the other one last time.
Even though it's not gonna be in the cemetery, it'll be Jarvis Plaza.
That's Parks maintains
That
that.
would be Parks. So that's why I'm kind of asking. I don't know how it works, if it would matter.
Or it could be a council, I mean, we can just bring it forward. I would say, let's talk to Mr. Orfila about it, and then we can go from there. I suggest, and the only reason I bring that up is that if we wanted it to happen faster, that's where the private funding benefit comes in, is that if it's privately, a private thing, it's faster.
The bottom line, that it is time for the young warriors to have their own monument, and that's the bottom line, and we need to be able to do that. The guys, right?
And every war is at the plaza, and like you said, they do deserve to be there, and I'm going along with you. And my organization, I would have to go and speak to them, but we helped with Gold Star Mothers, and we would be more than willing to, and go to the public.
Absolutely, but it is time that
should
they be on
happen.
it, yes.
It should happen. Money shouldn't be, it should happen.
Exactly.
Mr. Chair,
Sanchez?
But if the councilwoman that has that place, she has a lot of money for many things. If you spend 50,000 for the cemetery, why can't she spend 10,000 over here? The mistake that we're doing is that we don't include her. but she's got a lot of money. She's trying to fix Plaza Theater, thousands of dollars, and this is chicken feed. So that's my opinion.
Well, we can put it on the agenda sooner than later.
And that's all we can do.
Yeah.
That's all we can do. That's all. We bring it up to the next month meeting, put it on the agenda, and officially ask the city council to look into this monument and see how much financial help they can provide.
And on our end, we should have at least a ballpark figure of
So does the committee want to work on it and then get like the specifics and everything and then present it to council for funding?
I believe we need a design and a dollar amount. That's what we need.
So, I think Ricardo's been wanting to say something
Yeah,
back
go
there,
ahead.
so I'll let him, then Gabriel, and then I'll go
Yeah.
after Gabriel.
For the, I already gotten some quotes. I've been on it already, just so that y'all know. There's 2 designs, but it's up to y'all, what y'all, the committee wants. There's 2 designs, they range from more or less $15,000 to 25,000, but I think the 25,000 is gonna be way too big. Next meeting, I can bring what I have and show it to y'all.
And that's not for
Pricing.
the slab, that's just for the, or that's everything.
It's the rod, and they'll go, it's from, the quote I got was from Laredo Monument Company. They did send me the design, the measurements, how it's gonna look, more or less. And Laredo Monument, they did a great job with the Gold Star mothers, so, I mean, personally, I would go with them again, that's why I got the quotes from Laredo Monument. So it's,
And they were good on their pricing.
Yeah.
Because that was really a lot more than the money we paid for that monument. I honestly think they either lost money or barely broke even on that monument, to be honest with you. It is, like, if y'all haven't seen it, been out there, you need to go and,
That's a good-
and look at
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
It
In
is
the prior
beautiful.
meeting, we had the discussion about the monument for the Young Warriors Monument, and we talked about it, and I know I said this, and some other people said that. As far as the design and things like that, I think it has to be your organizations or your area to decide what you want.
So-
And prove it to the committee and we'll approve it, but I think that's the decision that served in that time, during that time, should make that decision.
So I think if it's okay, and Councilwoman, I guess, like, I would want your
Yeah, you were there.
your opinion on this, or maybe we just bring forward what the VFW has created already with Mr. Quijano and just bring it in, see if the committee likes it. If they do like it, take it to whoever we're gonna sign the project to, whether it be Coach Gomez or John, Mr. Fila, and see, maybe they'll have a better design or something, but at least we'll have something to bring them. I would hate to just tell them, hey, you do it, you figure it out, like.
And if I may, I would definitely love to include the Black Widows, since that is their era as well,
Absolutely.
into this, deciding what needs to be out there for this generation.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's what I meant. I mean,
Yeah.
here, we make the
Yeah,
decision
and
here, if it's good, what he's bringing, and then would you think that'll work? And that way we kind of leave it open, and I get it through the budget, because if it's earmarked already, it's gonna happen. We don't have to wait on
Sure.
anybody to say, I'm gonna donate $100 and then never give you the $100, because been there, done that, and it
Well,
sucks.
and the reason I bring that up is that we budgeted last year for a certain amount, but now with all the price changes, we're having to kind of stretch and find money just to be able to continue operating, because gas prices affected the city, our buses and everything.
Yeah,
So I don't want to go and say, well, let's find another 20,000 or 25,000. Let's budget properly for it, and the time to do that would be, during the budget process.
budget process for you guys,
It's
October, I believe.
October.
so it starts in October,
No,
or
we
it'll
can
be
start-
done by October?
Well, that's when we actually go through the whole thing, but
That's when the budget is approved, right, in October?
yeah, so
Well,
what,
Okay, so
they go
it's
through the
like
budget
us.
process before that, they have budget meetings.
yeah, and you start putting things that you want to ask for and
Yeah,
things like that.
That's where we're at too right now, at the budget process.
It's pretty much the same cycle.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, but I think the idea of having this committee get the logistics and the design and the pricing and what we want and everything, which you all would like, and then bring it to request the funding.
Yeah, next meeting, Mr. Quijano, you'll have something for us.
Yes, I got
I have, like I said, I got two ideas, two different quotes, like I said, one was 15, and one was 25, but they were just, to me, they were just way too big, which I think we gotta make it smaller.
And Mr. Lopez, can you bring your version as well? You said you have an idea of four-sided monument.
Yes, yes, and I'll bring the quote as well.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lopez. Any other further discussion?
I just want to mention that, Veterans Walking Trail, Councilman Gutierrez is working with, Ramon Chavez on the design,
Okay.
so it's being worked on.
Very good.
Mr. Vela,
Yes.
if at all possible, I know we were late, but.
Let me just. We're done with all the items, and the next item was the adjournment, but because of the change of venue, the change of location where we're gonna meet, we have a group of OTJ, OTC that wanted to address this committee, and I'm gonna allow them some time to do that because of the change that we had. So you have,
Mr.
among all of you, you have 5 minutes maximum.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Emiliano Paredes. I'm the battalion commander for Marine High School, the RTC program. First of all, I would like to thank you and all veterans for being united and making a resolution supportive of the LISD. The RTC program needs equity and respect. Sadly, our fight is not over. We have been met with a lot of retaliation with a district in order to silence us. Because this reason, we need stronger support from veterans. I'm hoping that veterans will run for LISD board. And I feel strongly that is the only way that we will have a voice. Thank you. Yes.
If I understand correctly, the school board has already planned on allocating money for the building with showers, bathroom and all that. That is for their next budget.
That is what they told you, but they had not brought us to the table. We have a coalition and we have the commander and his people. We have a chain of command, and they have not brought it to the table and say, hey, this is what we're doing. Let's show you. And this started this, and this is where we're at right now. We haven't had a seat on the table. They ironically, they approached you and Mr. Roque Vela, oh, we're working on this. This is going on. So if it is, why isn't the commander invited? Why isn't the coalition who started going to the board meetings? Why have we not been invited to the table? Why hasn't Sergeant Martinez or the major that used to work for LISD, why weren't they brought up to the table and told, look, this is what we're doing? You see the problem there?
Yeah, you want me to address that?
We've already addressed that.
No, you want me to address it to them?
That would be awesome. That would be totally awesome. And in addition to that, based on what our kids are saying, I strongly believe that I'm gonna put my hat on the table and run as a board member now, because literally we have been met with disrespect. I'll give you an example. My guys, I've been working for them as a volunteer for 4 years, teaching raiders, helping the cadet instructors, helping them train for the raider competition. 4 years ago, they came on the Laredo Morning Times because we want to go to the raider competition. For 4 years, they failed them. My guys have been strong enough that they compete against other teams that go to the nationals. One of our former students who graduated this year, they didn't send his team. And we got permission. We called Cadet Command and sir, LISD is not moving and getting us funds to take him to this year's nationals. We had to apply on June the 1st, right? So we can go compete in November. He sent an email to them in April. He sent an email to them in May. I sent an email to them in June. 0 responses. And so I called Cadet Command. Cadet Command says, the coalition is gonna be allowed permission to take the JRTC cadets to compete at the national level, providing that Martin High School and LISD allow us to take them. Okay? So we got permission from Cadet Command. I sent an email to them personally. Guess what? Did they respond to me? No. And as a veteran, that teased me off because I have a team of kids that have been fighting for this, that deserve to go to nationals. And LISD is ignoring us. That's the retaliation that they're facing, aside what they're doing to Sergeant Martinez.
Yeah, I talked to him, he said, he's been put on administrative leave.
Exactly.
And what I've heard from somebody in there is that they are allocating money for the building, bathrooms, showers, and all that. The only thing they're against or not working on is the tower.
The tower, exactly.
But the building, the showers and all that is already proposed for the budget for next year.
Correct. And we don't mind, if they don't want to build us a tower, then let's take 100% of all our JROTC kids to the courses that have the tower and the ropes. If you're not willing to get them a tower, send all our JROTC kids from Martin, Nixon, and Cigarroa. Okay, send them over there if you're not willing to put the tower here in Laredo for them.
Send them where?
There's a tower in Florida, I'm sorry, in Fort Worth, and there's a tower in somewhere South Texas with a Marine base camp and in Sandia. And those are leadership courses.
Would it include or have something to do with
Repelling, yes, sir. They have,
accident insurance?
oh, the school already has that. And we found additional insurance, which I've already showed you for $2.30, which is a total of $289 for all the students and the instructors. But the district lied to them, and we have it in audio, that they couldn't find insurance. And a 16-year-old girl found the insurance because they have the same school insurance at Fort Worth ISD, that have the same school insurance at the Marine camp. It's available, and it's available, and that's additional insurance.
Yeah, 1 minute.
Yes, sir. And so basically, guys, he's right. We need other veterans. If you can, please step up to the plate, because we're not really being respected at the district level from board members. Because they got the email too. They've had plenty of time to decide, just to say, yes, the coalition can take this team to compete in November. That's all we needed.
30 seconds.
Something so simple was denied to them and was denied to the parents and the veterans of the coalition. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your presentation. And let me just say this, that this committee and the city council of Laredo has already shown support for your program and the needs and wants that basically needs that so much wants. However, we have no say so
We understand
on what the LRD board will do. But we as veterans understand the plight that you have it, and we understand, at least the veterans understand the need of that tower. And at the time that the world is having all the problems that we have it, and today celebrating the 247th birthday of the United States Army, it is imperative that we train, or we have the tools for a young generation to continue to defend our way of life. But unfortunately, all we can do is just show our support in the way that we have already shown. And we'll continue to do it as far as we can. But we cannot vote for the members of the city council.
Yes,
But when I report, rather.
Yes, I totally agree, sir.
And we appreciate it, and we thank you for what you're doing, and hopefully you will choose a career in the military, because we are who we are, in my opinion anyway. We are who we are because our military service, whether good or bad.
Yes, sir.
But that's what we are, all of us that serve. And I can say that for myself, I am who I am, good or bad, because of service that I did in the military. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for reading.
Thank you.
Have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you very much for everything. Tacos here, we didn't do too bad.
No.
Tacos.
And
Tacos,
tacos.
tacos, all those in favor say hi. Thank you. Minutes, we have some tacos now.
Status on the Wake County Democratic Veterans.
We haven't brought it up.
All right, next
We
time.
haven't, because actually, they spoke about another group. The Black Widows were in, they showed up to a meeting,
Okay.
so we need to put that next time around.
No problem.
And then after it goes through here, then it goes to Ms. Perez.